Somebody you might recognize, Doug Larsen. I'm here. I was at the Barbell Business Workshop, so thanks for having me. It was an awesome workshop. If you guys haven't checked it out, you should. The reason I wanted to bring Doug on the show today is because there's been a lot of talk recently and kind of some controversy between the academics of the world and the practitioners of the world. So coaches on the floor versus people who read a lot of books. And if you guys have watched or listening to the Barbell Shrugged podcast, you guys know Doug is kind of likes to read, listens to a lot of audiobooks. If you know me, nobody's ever called me smart ever, so this is a good little combination. So really what I want the coaches to get value here is to understand that basically it's not either or. So you don't really want coaches to be just a bookworm, but there's a lot of value to being on the floor as well. So, I mean, you've been coaching for a long time in a lot of different kind of sports and stuff like that. So can you talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of value in being a person who, even though you may primarily be a practitioner, you understand the academic side of things, and then vice versa. There's probably fewer scientists or professors listening to this, but if you are a professor in exercise science, then certainly it makes sense that you would also understand how to lift weights yourself, or how to train yourself, or that you played sports. Knowing each side of the equation, I think, lends value to the opposite side of the equation. So there's value in kind of the learning, the practicing, and the doing of coaching or of being an athlete. So if you are a person who you've only ever been in the gym and you've only ever just done kind of the sport itself, then certainly that's the most important thing. Like, you can't be a surfing coach without ever having surfed. It doesn't make any sense. But the best coaches that I know are the coaches that they have an academic background and they have a practical background. Like, they understand how to train and they understand the science behind physiology, biomechanics. They know the anatomy. They understand like how the body is supposed to move. They understand like the different structures of the body. They understand the bones, the muscles, the tendons, the fascia. They understand the human body because they at some point studied academically, like they read books and they went to college, or they just went to seminars. They did something besides just lift weights a bunch. Again, that can get you by, and that's good. It's good. You got to know how to lift weights. But the best coaches that I know oftentimes are physical therapists. They went through a medical school style education to be a physical therapist, and they understand the human body at a very detailed level. And then because they understand the practical side as well, they can apply all the exercise physiology that they understand from their academic studies. They end up being a phenomenal coach. And that happens more times than not in my experience when they understand both sides.
Yeah, and I think the key takeaway is there that it's good to have that technical knowledge, but so I don't know about you, Doug, but like I get into these modes where I just read and read and read. I just love consuming information, and then sometimes you just get to this point where like, oh wait, I should probably go execute on some of that. And I think having a good understanding of really what you want to do is you want to be continuously bridging that gap between that technical logic, understanding, and then going on the floor and actually executing it, and understanding that what you read in a book isn't always how it plays out on the floor when I'm looking at athletes or looking at movement or coaching a sport or something of that nature. So
yeah, I think you're absolutely right. You have to, again, understand both sides of it. You have to know how to train, and you have to know the academic side of things. If you're a person that gravitates more to the academic side of things, and you never actually get in the gym and get your hands dirty and lift weights yourself and or coach other athletes, then all the theory that you learn is only going to take you so far, because like your understanding of that theory as you're reading it, if you don't understand how to train yourself, like you're not going to get why it's like how to apply it and why it is the way that it is, because you don't have the perspective of someone who actually applies it in the real world. Like I could read about squatting all day long, or again, surfing is the easy example. I could read about surfing all day long and have no idea how to surf. Like you got to get out there and practice at some point. It's the same way with training. You have to practice and get your hands dirty and and fail and screw it up and then try again. This is the name of the game.
And I think that's also important, is that like you're gonna screw it up as a coach. Like I don't know any coach, any sport ever that hasn't messed it up at some point, made a bad decision, written a bad program, probably hurt an athlete at some point. Like I mean, you don't want to do that, but I mean it happens. You know, so.
It's just a part of the game. It's a part of the learning process. Like you're not going to be the best coach in the world on your very first day. Like any coach has, again, they've written a bad training program, and if they say they haven't, that means either they haven't learned since they wrote their last training program. That probably was bad. If you don't look back at the training program you wrote last year and think, oh man, that wasn't that great, that means you didn't learn anything in the last year, because you're not perfect, and there's always going to be the next stage of development. There's always something more to learn. So your programming and your training should constantly be evolving. If it's not evolving, that means that you're not learning, or you're not learning fast enough.
Yeah. I try to read, I don't know how much you try to read, but I try to read something technical in sports performance like at least once a month to try to just keep myself fresh, and then that gives me a big enough window to try to execute or kind of practice that specific modality or whatever it is that I was reading about, and it just gives me a good little, but I try not to read, I mix up what I read, so I try not to read just constant, sports and performance books. It just breaks it up a little bit, keeps it fresh, so.
Yeah, for me, I don't have like a set routine with what I read and when I read. I consume stuff all the time because it's super fun, and I really enjoy it, and so I don't have to put myself on a schedule because I just know that I'm going to do it. It's just a part of my life. So I don't have like a certain pattern, or like I read this type of material on these days. I know people that do that. They're like, I read all research on Tuesdays. It's like my research day. And I do all business reading on Saturday and Sunday. That's like my business reading days. That's great if you want to do that. Nothing wrong with that. I personally do not do that.
Yeah, I think the most important part is that you're just continuing that education all the time. So you don't want to be just a practitioner, but you also don't want to be just a bookworm. Get in there, read, execute it on the floor, and ultimately make yourself a better coach. So, hey man, I really appreciate your time. It's been an awesome weekend. Absolutely appreciate it. Thanks a lot, guys. Post comments in the comment section, like the Facebook page, like the YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.